She walked up to the main gate with nothing but a backpack and a worn military ID. The guards laughed. "Nice try, lady," one sneered. "This is a restricted military facility, not a tourist spot." But when her fingertip touched the biometric scanner, every alarm in the facility went silent. Then, one by one, every door in the compound locked down. The base commander's face went pale as he stared at his screen. Who is she? This is the story of Colonel Sarah Mitchell, and how one moment of humiliation became a lesson an entire military base would never forget. What city are you watching from today? If this story resonated with you, hit subscribe and follow for more stories about extraordinary people. It was a cold November morning when Sarah Mitchell approached Fort Harrison's main entrance. At 52 years old, she looked more like a tired teacher than what she actually was. One of the most decorated intelligence officers in military history. Her silver-streaked hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her jeans and fleece jacket gave no hint of the 30 years she'd spent in service to her country. The two guards at the checkpoint were young, maybe mid-20s. They'd clearly never seen action beyond checking IDs and waving through authorized vehicles. When Sarah walked up to their station, the taller one, whose name tag read Morrison, didn't even look up from his phone. "Excuse me," Sarah said calmly. "I need to access the building." Morrison glanced at her, then nudged his partner Rodriguez. They both smirked. "Ma'am, this is a military installation," Morrison said with exaggerated patience, like he was talking to a child. "You can't just walk in here." Sarah reached into her pocket and pulled out her military ID. It was old, the photo faded, but it was legitimate. Morrison barely glanced at it before handing it back. "This expired 2 years ago," he said, which wasn't true. "You need to leave the premises." "If you'd actually look at it," Sarah replied, her voice still calm, "you'd see it's a lifetime credential." "I'm here for a classified briefing with General Patterson." Rodriguez laughed out loud. "Lady, you expect us to believe you have a meeting with the base commander? In those clothes?" Sarah felt the familiar weight of judgment she'd faced countless times in her career. When she'd first joined the military in the early 90s, she'd been dismissed because she was a woman. Then, as she rose through the ranks, she'd been underestimated because she didn't fit the Hollywood image of what a soldier should look like. She'd learned to let her work speak for itself. "I don't expect anything," Sarah said. "I'm simply telling you the facts. Now, may I proceed to the security checkpoint?" Morrison stepped forward, his posture aggressive. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to turn around and leave, or we're going to have base security escort you off the property. Those are your options." A small crowd had started to gather. A few junior officers on their way and slowed down to watch the spectacle. Sarah could feel their eyes on her, could hear the whispered jokes. She'd been in worse situations, in actual war zones where she'd negotiated with hostile forces while bombs fell around her. But somehow, this casual dismissal by these two kids cut deeper. "I understand you're doing your job," Sarah said quietly, "but I'm asking you one more time. Call the general's office. Verify my appointment." "We don't need to verify anything," Rodriguez said. "We can spot a fake from a mile away." That's when Sarah made her decision. She walked past both guards, directly to the advanced biometric scanner installed at the inner checkpoint. This wasn't a standard fingerprint reader. This was a military-grade system connected to the highest levels of defense intelligence. "Hey, you can't just—" Morrison grabbed her arm. But Sarah had already placed her thumb on the scanner for a moment. Nothing happened. Then everything happened at once. Every siren in the facility went silent, as if someone had thrown a master switch. The normal bustle of the base stopped. Car engines idled. People froze mid-step. The massive steel gates began to close with a mechanical groan. Every electronic door in every building locked simultaneously, with a series of clicks that echoed across the compound. Morrison's radio exploded with frantic chatter. "All units, we have a level alpha lockdown. This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill. The guards stared at Sarah, their faces draining of color, on screens in the security office, in the command center, and in General Patterson's office. The same message appeared: Overseer 1 authenticated, highest clearance confirmed, full base protocol initiated. General Patterson himself came sprinting out of the command building, his aides struggling to keep up. When he saw Sarah standing calmly at the checkpoint with 2 terrified guards, he stopped short. "Colonel Mitchell," he said, slightly out of breath, "I am so sorry. I should have informed the gate." Sarah looked at Morrison and Rodriguez, who now stood at rigid attention, their faces red with shame and fear. She could have destroyed their careers with a single word. Everyone watching expected her to. Instead, she turned to the general. "Sir, I'd like to request something before our meeting." "Anything, Colonel." "I'd like these 2 guards to be assigned as my security detail for the day." The general blinked in surprise. Morrison and Rodriguez looked like they might pass out. "They were doing their job," Sarah continued. "They saw someone who didn't look the part, and they held the line. That's exactly what they're supposed to do. The only mistake was not verifying when I asked. That's a training issue, not a character flaw." Sarah spent the next hour with Morrison and Rodriguez, explaining the importance of proper verification procedures, but more importantly, talking to them about assumptions. She told them about the times she'd been underestimated and how she'd learned that the most dangerous thing in any security situation isn't the obvious threat. It's the one you dismiss because it doesn't match your expectations. By the end of the day, both guards had written formal apologies. But Sarah tore them up. "Don't apologize to me," she said. "Learn from this. Respect doesn't come from appearances. It comes from how we treat people, especially when we have the power to do otherwise." 6 months later, Morrison and Rodriguez were selected for advanced military intelligence training. Their commanding officer asked them why they'd applied. Morrison's answer was simple: "A colonel taught us that strength isn't about being right. It's about doing right, even when no one's watching." Sarah Mitchell never sought recognition, but the lesson she taught that November morning spread throughout Fort Harrison and beyond. Sometimes the greatest power we have is choosing grace over revenge. If this story touched you, let me know in the comments. What's a time someone surprised you by showing grace when they could have shown power? Hit that like button if you believe respect is earned through character, not appearances. And subscribe to Soul Relief Stories for more tales that remind us what truly matters. Until next time, remember, never judge a book by its cover, because you never know who might hold the keys to the kingdom.